ultimately exported from the market, you have to have a due diligence statement which contains all the data that the EUTR required, plus some rather challenging other aspects. And from American Hardwood perspective, the most challenging thing was you needed to have the geolocation of all the individual plots of land where harvesting took place with each consignment. And this was required irrespective of risk. So demonstrating the source to an individual plot of land, which they define very specifically as a single real estate property, which has its own issues because actually throughout most of the tropics, throughout vast areas of the boreal forest in Canada and Russia, they do not have a real estate property in forests. I think in Indonesia you don't really. You have a lot of your forests are state-owned. So what is a real estate property when you're talking about an Indonesian state forest? I don't know. I mean, is it the whole forest area? And actually that is how some countries are interpreting it. So it's actually a fairly meaningless requirement. Where it does mean something, though, is in a country like the United States, where you do have real estate property, and you have millions of real estates, along with lots of forests. So it's actually really difficult for a country like the US and the Europeans have 16 million non-industrial forest areas. It's actually very difficult for these suppliers to comply, because the degree of granular data required is extraordinary, much more than you require in a large state-owned forest. So we've been arguing that it's actually quite discriminatory against smallholders, and I think you'll all have seen, of course, the Indonesian government's actions on palm oil, and of course the amount of publicity around this whole law actually is likely to discriminate not only against countries like Indonesia, but within Indonesia, against the smaller producers compared with the bigger producers. And this is very real. This is a very real concern. And it's already happening. There are many countries already that have been excluded from the EU in selling products like coffee. Ethiopia has now been excluded effectively from the EU market because it cannot deliver against this particular geolocation requirement. It's a big deal. It is a really big deal.